Hey guys, it's Logan. So I'm doing a quick live stream, and it may not be live for you, but I'm going to be showing you basically a template project I'm working on, and it's also open source, so if you have ideas for it and you want to contribute, then you can, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So why am I creating a template project? Well, first of all, when I start developing an idea or making a game, the initial setup I don't like doing, like making a base sprite and making a room, and then I'm not really using good design techniques in it, so if I do end up turning it into a full game, I kind of have to start from scratch. So I'm creating this template project, so basically you can load it up, prototype your idea, and everything's there, and you're already starting with good design, and you didn't really have to set anything up. So let me go ahead and show you what I have so far. So when you open the project up, I'm going to show you how to download it in a moment, but when you open the project up, you can hit play, of course, and it's just really basic stuff, but it is actually having some pretty cool things. So it already has a main menu built in. You hit new game, and I'll describe what this is doing in a moment, but you'll see it starts you with a level, and you have a little guy that can move around. That's all good and everything, but this isn't really the important part, is this setup. The actual important stuff is the way I've structured this. So if we go to our rooms and we go to our menus and gameplay, you could see that we have our start menu, and then we have a loading room. So the game actually goes through this loading room, and you don't see it in the background. And what this does is basically initializes your game, okay? So I'm going to show you, if you've watched my design patterns videos, then that's what this structure is based off of. So we have a loading room, and when all your stuff is done loading, it'll actually go to the level room, okay? So level room, I mean gameplay, by the way. And if we open up like these rooms, you'll see that we just have our player in them, and that's it. There's no controllers or anything, so I don't have like a big controller class. And the reason is because we have a managers, and we have you'll see this looks like a lot, don't worry about it. So we have a game loader, okay? And what this does is basically load all of your objects that you want to persist throughout your game. Okay, so when I move from level 1 to level 2, I don't want my input manager to be recreated. Okay, so what if your input manager, by the way, that's how I'm moving my player, I'm going to show you that in a moment. Your input manager is actually what handles your input, and your player moves based on that. So if we go into the input manager, you could see I actually assign my keys here. So what if you have a keyboard remapping, okay? Now, a lot of people use global right key, okay, and they don't want to reset them, but this, to me, is a more efficient way, or not efficient necessarily, but design-wise, it's more efficient. So you have this right key, left key, up key, down key, and this object gets created in the loading room. So if you remap the keys, then each time, you don't have to place this object in all your different rooms, okay? You actually don't even have to place it. If we go to our loading room, the only object in here is actually just the game loader, okay? And the game loader actually creates all this for you, okay? And I'm going to show you that. It's kind of advanced how it works, but it's a really good setup. So now if I remap my keys, and as I'm moving throughout my game, this is never getting reset because this object is persistent. You don't see it here, but it actually is persistent. It's not getting recreated for every room, okay? So let me go ahead and show you how all this works. Well, first of all, let me show you how to download the project, okay? And then we can walk through it. So the project is located on GitHub. So if I open up Google, if you type in, and I'll attach it in the description as well, github.com/LASpencer91. That's my GitHub. And you'll see my projects here. And then you go to my repositories, and you find GMS2 game template. Then I'm going to have a README here. This is where I'll have instructions for. I'm still working on it. You can download this by hitting clone or download, and you can hit download zip, and it's going to download it just like a Gamemaker project. And you unzip it and open it just like any project. Now, if you want to contribute, I'll show you how to do that at the end of this video. But basically, it starts here with this GitHub link, and if you know how to use GitHub already, then you'll know what to do with this. But I'll show new users how to do it later on. So if you want to actually open this up, add some scripts in here, add something to it, then you'll be able to as well. Okay, So after you have that downloaded, you can go ahead and open it. And let me go ahead and run the game one more time. Since I gave you kind of a rundown of all these different objects, and I'll give you a more in-depth, because it is a little bit complicated at first, but it's a very powerful way to start out a game. It's set up very well. So I hit new game, and it gives you a little message. This is called from room manager. This is just so you can go delete this code that does this if you want. This is just an example. On room start event as an example, you can set room properties here. This was called for the first level only. Okay, so I'll demonstrate how to use a room manager. You don't have to use these different managers either. These are examples, okay? So you could just use your object controller if you wanted, and I'll show you how to set that up too. But I prefer to separate my basically tasks, my responsibilities into different objects. So I have a manager that manages rooms, and a manager that actually persists player stats. I'm going to show you how that's set up. You don't have to use any of this. Once again, it's not like ingrained in how all this works. It's just an example of good design, and you can kind of carry on with it if you want. And then an input manager, which holds your keys and does your input stuff. So I'm about to show you all that, but you'll notice we can move our player, and you'll see our player's drawing some stuff. It says F1 will change level, so we can hit F1, and our level actually moves, and our player's still moving. And you'll see our health is actually going to get decreased, and you'll see it doesn't reset when we move to the next room. So now you have your health again. And a lot of people will just make their player persistent and make their player persist, and you could do that. That's not a bad way, but like I said, I use player stats manager to keep track of the player's stats, so like their health and stuff. And then I just I set my object's position for each room. So I let my object hit created, and I will walk you through this now. Okay, so it all starts with the singleton. Go watch my design patterns video if you don't know what a singleton is. Basically, a singleton is an object that gets created, and it doesn't allow a same object to be created. So if I have a room manager that is a singleton, it uses inheritance, by the way, then I won't have a room manager that actually gets created again. So if I try to add another room manager to my game, it'll actually just destroy itself if one already exists, okay? So that's one piece of a singleton, and the other piece of a singleton is that it's accessible from anywhere. Well, basically everything in Gamemaker can be accessed from any other object, so everything is kind of has that property. But also, this singleton is going to be persistent, so it's going to, after you create it in your game, it's never going to be destroyed. So even if you change rooms, it's not going to be reloaded. It's just going to stay alive between room transitions, and that's really good for stuff like this, persisting data. When you don't want to reset variables when you move rooms, then you use persistence, and this handles all that for you. So let me show you how it works. So if I were to open up the input manager, you'll notice that it inherits from singleton. So its parent is a singleton, and all you have to do is call event inherited in the create event, and then that's it. Your setup is complete. You don't even have to put it in the room, because when the game loader gets created inside of our loading room, this actually handles all that for you. It finds every object that inherits from singleton and just creates it. So when in our start menu we hit new game, it goes to our loading room, our game loader create event runs, and it actually creates all these managers. Basically, it automatically creates these. So if you're wanting to have like a new manager, like what's something else, like an effects manager that manages like the special effects in your game, you would literally just go here, create object. You would create effects manager. You would go parent, and you would make its parent singleton. So if I go to managers, singleton as its parent, and then I were to hit create, and you have to call event inherited. This means it's going to call, it's actually going to call the singleton's create event. So this is how you call your parent's event. And if you do forget this, let's see what happens if I run this now. It's actually, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's actually going to tell you that you forgot it. So yeah, there you go. So it says game loader. That means this is the person that is creating this message. The object effects manager does not call its parent's create event to fix. Place the code event inherited at the beginning of its create event. So it's actually telling you exactly what to do. So then you can go here and you just call that code. And you'll notice I didn't place this object in a room or anything. Like I said, if you set this up, it automatically works. And now this object's actually going to be alive through every room. And we can actually demonstrate that if I give it a sprite. Oops. So if I give Effects Manager a sprite, you should be able to see it at the corner up here, I believe. I think I create them at 0, 0. Yeah, there you go. So there's the Effects Manager. And now if I move to the next room, there it is. It's always alive. And unless you say instance destroy, it'll never go away, basically. So this actually solves a lot of problems. Inventories, anything that you want to persist data. You don't have to have a persistent player now. You can have these managers that manage the stuff differently. And let's examine the input manager. Okay, so our input manager, like I said, you can do your key assignments here. And then, for example, in the begin step, I pull for inputs. So I say horizontal input equals this. This basically, I'll show you how it's used in the player in this example. And so I'm basically calculating 2 inputs. And these are alive in my input manager. And now if we go to the player, you'll see how little code there is in there just for movement. Okay, so if I go to my entities and go to player, you'll see that this is all the step event is made of. I have a max run speed, which is my create event. So you'll see that I'm just adding input manager.horizontal input times max run speed. And that's because I have it here. The horizontal input will only ever be -1, 0, or 1. So you're multiplying the speed by that. You can just multiply your current speed or whatever, and it'll move your player. But anyway, that's not the important part. The important part is that we have the input manager that is actually taking care of the inputs. So what this does for you is it lets you separate out your keyboard checks and stuff like that from your player. You don't have to anymore. You just have to, you do all that stuff inside of the input manager, okay? So that is actually really cool, because what happens when you start doing like a gamepad input? Now you have a whole nother set of logic that is stuck in your player's step event. So you do all this in an input manager, and then you simply just call the variables you need like this. And yes, it's faster technically to do it in the player's event, so you don't have to call for this each step, but it's tiny. You'll never notice it. If your game is running slow, then it's going to be from other things and not this. So don't worry about efficiency necessarily. You're going to fail from bad organization before you are from tiny inefficiencies like this. So this keeps things nice and organized. So that is the input manager. Now let's examine how the player stats is working. So you'll notice when we were inside of our player, or running our game, when we went to the next room, the health actually decreased. Let's take one more look at it. So new game, okay. And you'll see our health is 50. Now it's 40. You'll see it's decreasing. So it's actually decreasing, but remember, we're changing rooms. So normally if you had a player be created in each room and it wasn't persistent, and you decreased its health, then changed rooms, its create event would be called again, its health would be reset, okay? And that's actually what's happening behind the scenes. There's other ways to do it, but you can just you can make your player persistent, like if you're an RPG, that's fine. There's instances where you do that, but if you want to have a straight position where you want your player to be created in each level, and you just want to place them in the level like this and like this, then this is one way to do it, and that's just to have a player stats manager. So let's see how it works. First, let's open up the player stats manager and go to create, okay? So this is the create event of the player stats manager, and you'll see I have a lengthy description. But basically, I'm setting my health, my max run speed. I have an example variable, can fly. I'm not actually using any of these. These are just examples. And I have a weapon, and I have an equipped weapon. This is an enum. Don't worry about it. You could delete all this if you want. This is just an example. So I have an equipped weapon and weapon.none. And yeah, so this is quite cool. So you'll see basically this is setting my default values for the start of my game. So if you're starting a new game, this is what you'd have, okay? And you'll see in here I talk about loading. So if you were to load a game, then maybe you would have a different room with a different type of game loader, which I don't have set up for this, or maybe instead of initializing it to these values, you would read from a file and then set these values based on what was found in your save file, for example. Okay, so all of this happens inside the loading room. It doesn't actually happen inside the gameplay room. So all of this stat setting happens in the loading room. So when you get to the level 1, after the loading is done, you get to level 1, then your player is actually going to grab its variables from this object. Okay, so this is the player stats manager. So it has all of the player's stats inside of it. Okay, and now when the player gets created, let's see what happens in its create event. It says my health equals player stats manager dot my health. My max run speed is player stats manager dot max run speed. Can fly, obviously it just gets all its stats from the player stats manager. Okay. And this is cool because now you don't have to have your player be persistent. This is always created. And remember, you don't actually have to place any of these managers inside of your game because the game loader basically creates them all for you. Okay, so what happens when we switch rooms? We want to persist our data. So our health, we don't want it to get reset at the next room. Well, remember, the player stats manager is not going to be destroyed and recreated because it's persistent. So it's just going to stay alive between the room change. So your player is going to be destroyed. So what we do is on room end, so when we switch rooms, so when the room is ending basically, we update the player stats manager with our new stats, okay? So you'll see here that the room ends and I'm updating the player stats manager with my current stats. So somewhere in our room, our stats changed. So we need to update the player stats manager. And then when we get to the new room, our player is going to be recreated and it's going to grab its values again. So basically it's handing off its data to the player stats manager. And in the next room, it's getting its data back from that. So it's like, hey, hold this for me while I recreate myself in the next room. So there you go. You have persistent data for your player throughout your rooms. Now you could have an inventory manager that worked much the same way. So basically I'm separating out all of the responsibilities of your player. You can see the step event. This is it. It grabs its stuff from input manager and player stats manager. So it's very organized. It's not all messy. You don't have a bunch of globals. If you just had global my health, if you had global horizontal input, global vertical input, there's no organization. How would you know where those global variables got created? For example, I know exactly where this horizontal input is created. It's at the input manager. I can literally, oops, not that. That's not what I wanted. I can literally hit F1 to go to the input manager right here. If you try to hit F1 on a global, it's not going to do anything. So I can hit F1. It's literally going to take me where these variables are created. So yeah, it's actually pretty cool. This is called basically single responsibility principle, and it's widely used in object-oriented programming. And a lot of people say, hey, Gamemaker's not object-oriented. It's, I think, the most object-oriented thing in the world. You literally have objects. I mean, there's some concepts from object-oriented programming that aren't applied in GML, but in general, yeah, it's basically object-oriented programming. So anyway, this test project, it's cool. I know this video is lengthy. You see the basics. Now there's one other thing that we have here. We have our utility scripts. So I'm going to be updating this. This is going to basically be a library of a lot of useful functions and scripts and things. So for example, we have a string. So we have like a string to list function. You'll notice if you open it, I'm trying to organize all this and put examples in and stuff, and I'm grabbing a lot of these from the internet. I'm going to start putting my own in here that are useful as well. But for example, you could pass a string into this function and it would create a list of each section. So if you had like a 1, 5, 10 as a string, like if this were a string, and you were to pass it in here, this function would actually return a list that has a 1, a 5, and a 10, all separated, right? So yeah, it's kind of a cool script. And then you have string insert commas. So if you want to place commas in a number, you just pass your number into the script, and it will return it with commas as a string, basically. And then you have some ease and tweening stuff. This is basically ease functions that you can use. It's I think a lot of people use that one. I actually changed how it works a little bit because it's a bit more organized. Basically you give an ease type, which is quad, cubic, quartz, quint, sine, exponential, circular, and then you give a direction, in, out, or in, out. Before it was using strings to access all it. This is way easier to use. For example, let me show you real quick. So if you were to use it, you just type ease, and then it tells you down here what you need. You say ease type, and then hit dot, and it shows you all your types of ease. So you hit elastic, and you say ease direction, dot. It gives you your 3 directions you can use, and then you give it a value. There you go, easy. Okay, and then we have like wrap, approach. We have some drawing. This is merge colors. It's like merge color, but you can use multiple colors. So we have some common, like these are ones that I use that are really basic. So I have my distance to mouse, which basically gets the distance to the mouse pointer. I use this all the time, and instead of writing this out, I just have to write my distance to mouse, and it'll give me that same value. And then my direction to mouse, same concept. So yeah, that's just really easy stuff. Then we have math, like grid snap. If you want something to snap to a grid, you pass the value that you have and then the grid size, and it'll return the snapped position basically. And then you have like debug, which is like a warning message. That's what I actually showed in my game loader. So it actually shows a warning message. Basically, it does a show message, but it shows you the object that is calling the message basically. So whoever uses this warning message, that's what the prefix of the message will be, is that object name, so you know where it's being called from. It's really good for debugging. And then we have a collision, like collision rectangle list. Basically, you give it a rectangle and an instance type, and this one you don't give an instance type. Oops, I need to make one that you give an instance type. But anyway, it'll return all the instances found within that rectangle. So it's kind of useful. So I'm going to be populating this with some really useful scripts and stuff in the future. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. And if you're just joining me, by the way, this is a template project I'm creating. So it's a good project setup for you to use. Kind of going over how to use it. And if you missed it, don't worry, you can go back and watch the VOD when it's done uploading. But it's a really useful template project, and it's not finished yet. I mean, it's working. You can go use it right now, but I'm going to be adding a lot of things to it. I'm going to try to keep it lightweight, but I'm also going to be doing some basic stuff. So yeah, it has a lot set up for you already. And a lot of it is kind of complicated concepts, but design patterns that I find really important and really good for Gamemaker. So like having the different managers instead of just having an object controller. So separating out your responsibilities. That's what's happening here, and just how easy it is to create these managers and not have to worry about them. So for example, like I show earlier in the video, this manager isn't actually placed inside of a room. You create a new object, you inherit from the object Singleton, and then you call event inherited in the create event, and it's good. It'll be created at the beat. When you hit start game, it's created. And it's going to be in every room for the rest of your game. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to call if instance exists, because it'll always exist. So if you have a player that relies on the input manager, it has to get some values. You'll never have to use if instance exists input manager, because it gets created before the game even starts, or not before it starts, but before your gameplay starts, before that player is created. So it's actually always created before the player, and you don't have to place it in any rooms. It's really cool. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end the video there. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. Please leave questions about it below. And if you still want to stick around, I'll show you how to contribute to the project. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So if you want to contribute to the project, let me link this down below actually. You'll come to the GitHub right here and download Github Desktop. If you've never used GitHub before, that's fine. So you'll want to create a new GitHub account first of all. And then you're going to GitHub Desktop and create a GitHub account on github.com. and that's fine after you've done that. And then download GitHub Desktop right here. Just Google it, and I guess I'll link that below as well. GitHub Desktop. GitHub project. Okay, so download GitHub Desktop here, and what that is going to give you is this nice GUI interface. Okay, and if you don't know what GitHub is, watch some videos. You should probably use it. It's awesome. So basically, anytime I make a change to anything, I upload the changes to GitHub. So if I click my changes, you'll see I edited these 2 files, and you can click it and I can actually see exactly what I edited. It said I deleted this line and then I added this line. So I basically probably made an empty space, and it tells you the exact changes. You can say what you changed down here in the description. You can hit commit, you can hit sync. It puts it up in the cloud basically. And now you have snapshots of all your previous versions. So if you mess something up, you can always go back to a previous version that's always there. So basically it keeps things really cool. And in addition, you guys can download and edit it as well. So you open up the GitHub Desktop. Sorry, I closed that out. GitHub Desktop. And then what you're going to do when that's open and you have an account created and you've logged in is you're going to say, see this little plus sign up here? You're going to click it. You're going to hit clone. And then I believe this is where you do. No, actually, no. After you log in, sorry, I lied to you. After you log in to GitHub Desktop with the account you created, then you can come here and you can click fork. So when you click fork, you can see it forks your own copy of my project. So basically it's going to move all these files onto your own profile. So if you were to go up here to your profile, you would now have my same project on your profile, except if you make changes to it, it doesn't affect my version, okay? So you can make changes, contribute, put a script in, whatever. And if you go here, then you were to go to the plus sign, you might have to give it a minute to update after you do the fork, and you hit clone. It should show up in here on this sidebar right here, okay? So GMS2 game template will show up, and you click yes, I want to clone that, and then it'll ask you to pick somewhere on your computer to store it. Okay, so this is going to be a folder that you're going to work from. You don't want to move files out of it or anything, or you can move files in, just don't move anything out unless you want to delete it. Okay, so what you're going to do is pick your folder that you want to store it on. I use documents, and then I use git repos, okay? And I just put it in there. You don't have to make a base name. You don't have to say GMS2 game template folder, okay? Just give it like a base directory. So like git repos is fine. And use that, and it'll download those files from your cloud into that folder. Then you can open it up with Gamemaker and add your script or whatever you want to change on the project. And when you're done, if you were to go into your GitHub Desktop, where am I? And you were to click your project over here and then go to changes, it's actually going to show you all the files you changed. And the ones that you want to like submit to be on the main project, like my main project, basically you'll enter a summary. So you'll say like just a brief summary of like a script. Like I added this script. And then description, you'll describe exactly what you did. And then hit commit to master. And what that does is commit to your cloud, okay? But it's not on your cloud version yet, okay? You just basically staged a change. So you're like, okay, this change is kind of in the middle between being on the cloud and being on my desktop, okay? So after you commit, then you'll hit sync, okay? And then you'll see this pull changes from and push local changes on remote on master to the remote. So what the sync is going to do is take those staged changes and push it up into your cloud. And then if you were to go to the website at this point and to your profile, you would see your commit like over here, and it'll tell you exactly when you did it and basically which folder changed, what file changed. You can view your commits right here. So I added an initial utility scripts. You could see I could actually review that and see everything that I added. This stuff is Gamemaker does this behind the scenes. That's not stuff I added necessarily, but these are. so you could actually see the files that you added. This is after you hit sync. And then for me to merge it to my project, you simply go to your project, okay? So go to your base project. This would be your profile / GMS2 game template. And then you would hit pull requests, okay? And then you hit new pull request, okay? I think you can actually do this from the GitHub Desktop version. I think this will actually do it too. What should I do? Should I try it? Okay. So you hit pull request. I'm trying to remember exactly how to do this. You can compare here, but oh, this is me reviewing pull requests, I think. But anyway, you create a pull request, and I think you might have to insert a description stuff, and then hit submit, and then it goes to me, and then I'll get a notification of my pull request. I can review your scripts, and then I just merge it to my branch, and voila, your changes are on mine. I know that sounds like a lot of stuff. Just follow the steps. But that's if you want to contribute to this project. So yeah, like I said, template project. I have some plans for it. I'm going to be importing a lot more useful scripts, because I find that even me, like a lot of developers, when you start a new project and you don't have initial scripts set up, you'll probably just rewrite your own most of the time, unless it's something you don't know how to do. But having these utilities here, I mean, this isn't making your game compile that much slower necessarily, if at all. I'm going to try to keep it down and keep it to really only useful scripts. So I'm going to clean up non-useful ones. And then I'm going to have a couple different folders here. So I'm going to have a couple templates for, I'm going to create a, sorry, I'm losing my, I'm going to create a platformer template, a top-down template, and what was the other one? Not an RPG one, it's too big, but I will do a top-down, a platformer, and I had another one. I don't know. I don't remember. Well, anyway, there's 3 of them that I have planned. 3 templates for different games, okay? And they're going to have their own folders, and they aren't going to be ingrained into the design. You could just delete the folders if you didn't want them, and nothing else would be affected, okay? But yeah, so I'm going to have a few template projects, and it's going to be as simple as going to your main menu, and when you hit start new game, it's just going to have the 3 buttons that show up, top down, platformer, whatever, and you just click it. But like I said, I'm going to create it in a way that if you just delete one folder, basically it's all going to be gone. So if you were to open up the project and you didn't want that stuff, delete, 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 you're done. So yeah, scripts and a good project setup. So that's what this is. So if you're just joining me, please go watch this video when it's out. I'm going to probably live stream again. I'm going to close this video out and so it can start uploading. If you want to stick around, you can, but I got to shorten this video or the length will scare people away when they watch the VOD. So I'm going to stop streaming and start streaming right away. Okay. Stop streaming. Okay. I think I'm back on. I hope that closed my video out. So, also, I got this cool layout today. It looks exactly like Visual Studio. So like if I am to open up a script, it's the exact stuff as Visual Studio. It's pretty cool. There were a couple colors that weren't there, but I went ahead and added them today. So yeah. But yeah, this is really cool. If you guys want to go ahead and download it, the link is below. And like I said, it's a good template project. It's a good setup. I'm going to write a documentation on how it's used. And yeah, you'd be able to use it for any game. So if you just joined, I'm going to delete this video. This probably isn't going to be a VOD, but you have this really awesome setup. For example, that basically you have persistent objects that are through your game. So if I want an inventory manager, and usually when you have an inventory, like if you're doing an RPG, you don't want your inventory stuff to get lost. Basically, when a room ends, your object gets destroyed. Well, now when you create an inventory object, or if you create a persistent object that it doesn't be destroyed, you have to actually go into your game and go to your first level basically, or somewhere, and place that object. But the system that this uses, you don't have to. And this also has some safety checks as well. So if you had an inventory manager, what if you placed it in a room and then you placed it in another room without noticing? Then you would have two inventory managers in your room. And since they're invisible objects, basically a controller object, you would never know. So this actually handles all that for you. So if I were to create an inventory manager for an RPG, I would say inventory manager. This would keep track of all the weapons and all that I have. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a graphic to use. Yeah, just so you could see it be created. And it's visible, whatever. And for this to be created in this template project, all I have to do is set its parent. I set it to Singleton. And then I go to the create event. And I actually have to inherit from its parent's create event. But let me show you what happens if you forget that. So I don't let you forget basically with this setup. So I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to actually delete this create event. So if you only inherit from Singleton, and you hit play, let's see what happens. And you'll notice I did not place this object in the game. It handles all that for me. It's magic, okay? I didn't actually go in the room and place this object. But when I hit new game, it says you can set room property. Oh my gosh. Okay, it didn't work. Hold on. That is not supposed to happen. I lied to you just now, but honestly, I'm confused. Do I need to save it? Let me try one more time. Okay, it did get created automatically, but that's really odd. Because I do, my game loader says if not variable instance exists, new manager correctly initialized, warning message. Why is it not showing my warning message? Oh, sorry. I just had a brain fart. When you don't have a create event, it actually automatically calls event inherited, basically. So it's actually calling that create event. So I wasn't thinking straight. Basically, when you create an object, you're usually always going to have something in the create event. So for example, an inventory manager, you would have inventory slot 0 equals 100, right? Whatever, armor, whatever it would be. Okay, so in this case, now if I run the game, it'll give me an error. Or not an error, but it'll tell me that something's messed up. There you go. The object inventory manager does not call its parent's create event. To fix, place the code event inherited at the beginning of its create event. So it tells you exactly what to do to fix it. So you'll notice my object actually didn't get created. I kind of closed it quick. But basically all you have to do is say event inherited. There you go. It told you how to fix it. What this does is calls the singleton's create event, because if it does not call the singleton's create event, it will not be persistent unless you checked persistent. But I'm making it to where you don't actually have to remember to do that. Okay? So if I hit play, it's actually going to automatically be set to persistent. So I hit play, and now I hit new game. I don't get that error. It shows my inventory manager up here. And now if I go to the next room, you'll see it's still there. So it's always going to be with you until you either destroy it by yourself or you try to, or the game ends. So another thing that comes along with this singleton manager, or the singleton system, is let's say that I forget that I have this object automatically be created. So I drag like 2 inventory managers in here. For some reason, you did this. Well, you don't want 2 of them because you don't want 2 or 3 different things managing your inventory. So now if I hit play, there should be 3 of them that pop up in that room, right? Well, you'll notice something kind of cool. There's not actually 3 of them that pop up in that room because I've created it to handle that case. So there'll always only be 1, and that's one of the properties of a singleton if you have studied anything about design patterns. So there you have it. Just to do that, all I had to do was inherit from Singleton, make the parent singleton and make sure it calls singleton's create event. And I'll go ahead and show you how it does this stuff since you're here and you're watching. So I gave a lot of description. This is it. This is the entire system basically for singleton. First, I set a variable called correctly initialized to true, and I'll demonstrate this in a second why this works. Then I set persistent to true. So if an object inherits from singleton, basically, when you call event inherited, it's calling this code in the manager object. So my inventory manager is calling this code when I say event inherited. So it's setting itself to persistent, and then it's checking, hey, is there more than one instance in my room? If so, then destroy myself. And that's it. That handles everything. And what correctly initialized does is, like I said, I have a game loader. And this is how the game loader can tell if you forgot to inherit from the create event of singleton or not. So if I were to go to game loader, you'll see that here I say if variable does not exist, and the new manager is basically the object it is creating. Okay, it's creating the object. So that's what new manager. So in our example, inventory manager, you could say is the new manager. And it's checking to see if that correctly initialized variable exists. If it does exist, that means inventory manager called its parent's create event. And if it doesn't exist, that means it forgot. So it gives you a warning message. And that's one of my nifty little scripts up here, is a warning message. And then this is after it creates all of the singleton objects. Then it goes to the next room, and then it destroys itself. You don't actually have to do that. I just did that in case someone accidentally made game loader persistent, basically. And oh, I should wrap this all. I should check the room. So if you accidentally placed game loader inside of a different room than it's supposed to be, it would destroy itself. So I might actually do that and update it soon. But actually, I'll go ahead and do that on stream so you guys can see. So we only want our game loader to load our game if it's in the loading room, okay? So all I have to do is up here, as I say, if room is not equal to loading room, just say instance destroy. There you go. That's it. It's done. So let's see what happens if I place it inside of, let's say, start menu. So I'm going to place a game loader here. I'm actually going to, well, I don't need to show it. The game loader automatically, after its create event's over, it goes to the next room. Which makes me wonder, is it going to finish the script out even after it destroys itself? I've always wondered that. I feel like I've had issues before. So it's going to be in the start room, so let's see what happens when our game first starts. Game loader singletons not set before reading it. So it actually, yeah, that's really lame. So let's see what happens if, so it actually called instance destroy, but it still went on. It played the rest of the events? What? I'm so confused. Let's see if I do return here. Or exit? I think exit would be the correct term. Yeah, so Gamemaker does its scripts really odd. Game loader singletons not set before reading it. Oh, okay. I know why. So we actually need to go after this. Let me try this one more time. So on when the instance gets destroyed, I'm actually destroying the list. And since the list wasn't being created, it wasn't working. I need to put it after the list is created. Data structure with index does not exist. Let me try the exit thing again. Yeah, so this always really confuses me. Because Gamemaker does do stuff really odd, like if you're using, there you go. So I had to actually use exit. So when you call instance destroy, I think it actually executes the code left inside of the script before it destroys itself, which is kind of annoying. So what I had to do is actually use exit to make sure that if it got here, it would actually exit the script and not execute the rest of the code. So that's what happened. You'll see now I'm going to upload this to Git, and I'll actually show you how to upload to Git if you want to contribute. So if I hit new game, you'll see our stuff gets initialized correctly. It's there through all the levels, and once again, if you use this template, you don't have to do anything to get to this point. You literally load the project up and it's all here. If you want to start from scratch, basically get rid of the levels and just make a new level 1. There you go. Start editing your player, okay? And like I said, you don't have to use the player stats manager or any of this. I just kind of, this is how I like doing it. So let me see. Yeah, so upload to Git. So I want to commit this to my cloud, basically my profile. So you'll see if I open up Git Desktop, it actually shows my, oh, let me go ahead and clean it up before I upload. I placed something random in here, like these 2 objects. So let me delete those. Let's make sure this is the, yeah, that's player. And then let's see what my loading room looks like. Okay, just the game loader in my loading room, that's it. Start menu. Okay, and let's get that game loader out of the start menu. There we go. Okay, so there we go. Our project should work. Let me run it one more time. New game. There you go. Done. Also, it'll cycle through the rooms until you get to the last room, and I'll tell you beat the game. So if you're trying to prototype something real quick, you also don't have to program that functionality. It'll already work. Okie dokie. So upload to Git. You go to your Git desktop. I'm going to say summary. Added check for correct room in, what was it, game loader. And let me type the description. Game loader will now destroy itself if it is being created in any room besides the loading room. Okay, and now I hit commit to master. And you'll see that I no longer have local changes, but it's still not on the cloud. So if I were to go to my profile, did it refresh? Okay, yeah, it refreshed. So you'll see my commit still doesn't show up. If I go to my commits, you'll see this was earlier, an hour ago. I made that one, so that's not the right one. So even though I committed, I still have to hit sync. What that does is push it to the cloud, basically, okay? So it's syncing. It's basically doing my changes, syncing it to the cloud. Let's go, hurry up. What are you doing? There you go, finish syncing. So now if I reload this, I refresh, you'll see I added a new commit. And now if I go to the main project, you'll see a minute ago I made a change in this folder. A minute ago I made a change in scripts folder. I didn't make an extra object, did I? Ooh, I did. Ugh. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that object. And you'll notice one of the powerful things about this system is I deleted an object here, and I literally don't have to worry about it anywhere. I don't have to like check room. I know it automatically removes it from the rooms, but as I said, these manager objects, you don't actually place them in a room. They're just automatically found by the game loader from your resource tree. Okay, so I don't actually have to worry about it anywhere in my game. Okay, so removed inventory. That's just fixed. Mistake. No one needs to know exactly what happened. Removed inventory manager accidentally there from last commit. Okay. And I'm going to commit to master, sync. There we go. And like I said, you can actually revert changes. So if you made changes and it broke something, you could actually, these little dots up here, these actually show you all your previous versions, basically. And I could click this and I could revert, and it would actually undo all my changes. And don't worry, even if you did undo all your changes and go back here, it keeps your most recent one as well. Basically, it would create a new dot on the other side of this one, but it would be like this version, like a previous version. GitHub's really cool. Okay, so there we go, and I need to sync it, so it pushes it up here, and you'll see. There you go. I think fixed mistake, yeah. So there we go. Fixed mistake a minute ago. So you can actually see the project files here. I could actually go to, you don't even have to download it. I could actually go to my scripts folder, and then I could see like grid snap, open the GML. I actually view the script inside of Git. It's kind of nice. Okay, so I have 7 viewers. If you guys want to see something, let me know, because I was just doing a video to kind of show you my template project, okay? And if you guys have questions about it, I could show you, but if not, then I may think of like a little tutorial video to do and reload my stream in a minute. But I'll give you a few seconds if y'all want to talk or know anything or whatever. I'm gonna start posting this to Reddit. Might post on the forums too. Is my video up? My previous video that I just did. Yeah, Barrett, it's really cool. The thing I'm scared about is creating kind of it seems like a complex system, but since I am teaching, one of my goals for my videos is to teach efficient ways and good, basically, design patterns and game design, because a lot of Gamemaker users don't do systems like this, and their projects get super clunky. And yeah, you could see, if you're confused, I kind of get it, because it does seem a bit confusing how it works. But you don't actually have to understand how it works. You just create a manager, inherit from Singleton, call event inherited, and there you go. But yeah, these systems are really good, and you can see like how clean the player is. Like all this is example stuff. You can see that my health equals player stats manager. Basically, instead of setting your variables in here, which you kind of have to do, I might set up a system that automatically loads your variables for you. Be kind of annoying, because I know this is 2 places that you now have to put variables, but at the same time, this keeps all of your stats throughout rooms without having to have the player be persistent, okay? Which is quite nice, like I said, when you do a load game, okay? So when you load, like let's say you have saved games, you could save a game, and now what happens when you load a game, okay? So let's say you're loading a previously saved game, and you have to load like all these values, like your entire inventory and your health and your everything. So now you would have to go into your game room. You'd first have to load what room you left off on. And now that you know what room you left off on, you have to load the room. Then the player gets created. And now you have to load those values into your player, okay? And this system makes that way easier, because now you have a loading room, basically. And you have a player stats manager. Well, to load, basically to load data into your game, all you'd have to do is make like a load manager, okay? And your load manager would open a file. It would read the file, and since it knows, you already know what managers. You have a room manager, a player stats manager, you could have an inventory manager. All of those are created alongside with it in that loading room, right? So basically it opens a file, loads the values, and then places all those values to the correct managers, okay? And now when you go to your next room, when your player's created, it gets its values automatically, just like this. So your load manager, whatever, the way you load the game doesn't have to set anything in the player, okay? It'll set the values here, and then that's it. You don't have to worry about it. So yeah, it's a really nice way to do it. I really like doing this stuff. So like a room manager, this is like a super optional thing. It's just, I was putting example managers, how you could do it in here. For example, this manager basically, if you press F1, this is what handles moving rooms, okay? And it shows the game win message at the end, okay? It's pretty obvious. And you could do room start. You could set some like settings. So like, let's say a different effects that you wanted to turn on for different rooms. Maybe this is where it would handle it. Okay. So you could do if room equals level 1. So most people would do this in an object underscore controller, or maybe even the player. I've seen people do stuff like this in. Well, it's super ugly. You have an object controller that would handle everything that all three of these managers do. But then you have a ton of messy code. I have literally, if I want to do something that has to do with setting room properties or moving rooms or saving what rooms I've been in, I have a really good place to put it in my room manager. And I don't ever have to worry about it being destroyed or created or anything because, well, it's simple. They get created automatically. When you hit new game, this stuff gets created. You don't even have to worry about placing it in any of the rooms, none of that stuff. Make easy game with this template tutorial. YT. Got notified about YouTube. Oh, nice. Ear fan, what are you confused about? Confused about how this works? Oh, you think I should do like a game tutorial with this, using it. I see. I might have to. I might do that. Actually. I could do that right now. I would reload my live stream one more time. So the video restart. Actually, my video didn't even restart. I don't think my video restarted last time. I think it just thought I lagged. Gosh dang it. I was trying to separate the time. Yeah, so I'm going to shut the stream down. I'm going to reload it, and I'm going to do a small game. Give me ideas for a quick game. What could I do for a quick game? Just type it in and I'll do it, and I could include this in kind of the video. So yeah, let me restart the stream and I will do a quick tutorial video on how you would use this, and I'll do a quick game. So game design tutorial, cool. All right, I'm going to limit it to like 45 minutes too. Okay, stopping the stream. I'm going to restart it. If you want to watch, don't go anywhere. Alrighty, I think I'm back. Let me know if my music's too loud or anything. I'm not really positive. Okay, so if you're just joining me, or if you're watching this in the future, I'm gonna do a quick game showing you how to use my template project, okay? And if you don't know how to get it, I'll give you a quick rundown. So you need to go to, I'll attach this link in the description. Okay. And you'll basically go here, clone or download, and download zip. And then you can open it just like a regular project, okay? And what this is a template project with a lot of good design patterns in it for you. And I'm doing a tutorial because it may be kind of confusing to use, as well as having a basic setup for a game. It has some pretty useful scripts as well. I'm probably not going to use in this tutorial because I'd have to think of stuff to use for each one of them, but I'm going to be adding more features and more stuff onto this project. So I'm going to try to keep it as lightweight as possible though, so you don't have to open it and deal with a lot of crap. This is supposed to get you started right away on the right foot. So I'm going to be doing a game. So what kind of game? I'm going to do this off the top of my head. You know what? Let's do a quick top-down shooter, okay? So I'm going to do a top-down shooter with multiple levels, okay? So first, let's outline a couple problems that we usually have with Gamemaker games. Number one, persistence of data between rooms. So if you have a player with that you want to keep his health between rooms, right? So you have 100 health to start it with. Your player gets hurt, you move rooms, and he gets recreated, so your health gets reset back to 100. Okay, so what you do to solve that is make your player persistent. And what does that do? Well, that makes it so your player doesn't get destroyed on room change. So then what happens? Well, Then what happens is on room change, you have to move you have to have a separate object now for your player to start at a certain position in the next room, or else they'll just basically be in the previous position from the previous room, okay? So you actually, for each room, you have to have like a spawn point, okay? And your player moves to that spawn point at the beginning of the room. Well, what's the other issue that happens with that? Well, let's say you have a camera. Say you have an object camera, and the camera is following your player, right? Well, now you have to make sure your camera's persistent as well. Because if your camera gets destroyed and your player doesn't, but your player in its step event is like telling the camera to do something, then you're going to get an error now. So now you have to do something like if instance exists camera. Oh, that's kind of bad too. And this cycle keeps kind of going on. So what I use is what we call a singleton. And we have a singleton here, and we have different managers. And I keep my stats in a persistent object called player stats manager. So we have different levels. So I've explained this in my previous video, kind of the details of this, but let's go ahead and this template solves these problems for you basically if you use it how it's supposed to be used. So I'm going to go ahead and delete my level, and you'll see my template also has a start menu. So let's go ahead and get started with a top-down shooter. The first thing I'm going to do is I deleted my level 2 and level 3. I'm keeping my start menu in my loading room. And I have my singleton and my game loader. Don't worry about these. You're never going to place either one of these objects. In your loading room, you'll notice that you have your game loader objects, and it's going to load in all your managers basically. So I have a room manager, and how you set up a new manager I'll show you in a minute. But basically you make its parent to be singleton, the object, and then in its create event you call event inherited, and voila, you don't even have to place it anywhere in your game. It automatically gets created by the game loader, okay? So you don't even have to put it in your game. It'll just get made automatically. Okay, so let's make a couple things for our game. Let's make a cursor or a crosshair. So I'm gonna make S crosshair. I use S to prefix my sprites. You'll notice in my objects I actually don't use OBJ or any of that. I keep it clean, and I prefix all my other resources. My objects I just keep unprefixed. And my scripts, sometimes I will, but you'll see in this project I don't. If I have an object named string to list, that's kind of weird. So that's just how I do it. So I have S crosshair, and what size is my player? It's 64 by 64. So let's make this crosshair 32 by 32. And I'm gonna do this real quick. Boom. Let's turn the grid off. And let's make this crosshair like a dark red. And let's give it like a cross thing in the middle. It's not quite even. That's fine. Man, how do I... Sorry, I wanted to do this. I don't even know if I like that. Yeah, let's not do that. Just keep it like this. Oh, it's not even. It's bugging me. I'll just make it even. It's not going to be perfect. Okay, so now we have a crosshair, 32 by 32. We're going to set its origin to the center. This is so it stays on your mouse pointer. If not, the origin's at the top left. It'll look like this, and you don't want that. Okay, so now we have our crosshair. And we will have... I would usually have a manager to draw this kind of stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in a player. I don't recommend this. Actually, let's make a manager. It'll give me a reason to do it. So we'll just call it a draw manager for now. I don't think it's a good name. But basically, I want an object that handles drawing this crosshair to the screen, right? Or maybe even drawing other stuff. So I'll have it draw the GUI as well. I don't want the player to handle this responsibilities, right? The player shouldn't be in charge of drawing stuff to the screen besides drawing itself. So what we'll do is we'll create an object that will handle drawing the GUI stuff and drawing the crosshair to the screen, and maybe just drawing whatever needs to be drawn, okay? And to do this, we want it to be in every room in our game, right? Because we want the crosshair to show up. maybe not in cutscenes and stuff, and you would have to handle that, which this kind of idea is good for as well, because it gives you an object called Draw Manager to be able to handle all that logic of when it should be drawing what. So you don't have to do all this in your player, which gets really messy. Just draw your player inside your player object, okay? So this will draw the GUI and stuff, but we want it to go be in our game, but we don't want to have to hand place it in every room in our game, right? So this is where my system comes in place. So like I said, my project besides that crosshair is exactly what you would download right now. And let's add a new manager. So like I said, I want it to be created in every room, and I don't ever want it to be destroyed unless I tell it to do so. So we're going to name it Draw Manager. And to make this available in our game, we set its parent. So I click Parent, I click Managers, I click Singleton. So its parent is now the Singleton. And I went over that in my previous videos in more detail on how it works. And then I'm going to go to the create event. So basically what happens is it needs to call the code inside the Singleton's object's create event to get kind of set up correctly. Now, if you did not create a create event here, it would automatically call its parent's create event. So you wouldn't have to do anything. It would be set up correctly right now, okay? But if you don't, but most of the time you want to set some values in the create event. So if I make a create event inside the Draw Manager, it now will not call its parent's create event anymore. It won't call the Singleton's create event, okay? That's its parent, that's its mom. It won't call its mom's code. So we have to specify events inherited, okay? That's it. It will now, once again, call its mom's code, okay? So we're gonna say init we'll just say init as a description, and it shows up there. I like initialize better, it looks more pro. Okay, and next we just want to draw our crosshair, okay? So let's go to draw, and we'll say draw, and draw, whatever, I don't know what to specify here. And all we have to do is say draw sprites, and we'll say mouse X, mouse Y, and oops, I need to give it the sprite before I do all this. So I'll give it the sprite S cursor. There you go. And it will now draw the sprite's cursor. Why does it give me an error? Oh, subimage, -1. There we go. And simple as that. And you'll notice I didn't place it inside my rooms, but you're gonna see that it's actually there, okay? Let's see. So if I hit new game, it should show up, right? Don't worry about that message. S cursor not set before reading it. Did I not name it correctly up here? Oh, S crosshair. That's what I named it. Okay, so I named it incorrectly. So I gotta rename it. S crosshair. I should have seen that. Okay, now if we run it. New game. Boom, our crosshair's there. You'll notice I didn't actually put an object inside the room. My stuff, the framework handled that for me. Now if I go to the next room, our crosshair should still be there. Oh, I didn't have another room. Let me duplicate that room. Let's try again. New game. Okay. If I hit F1 to go to the next room, it actually did move, but I have a duplicate room, so actually it's the same. It's not the same room. I actually did move, and you'll see my crosshair is still there. Cool. There you go. So we just made a new manager. That's how you do it. And like I said, created on the game load. So when you hit new game, it goes to the loading room. This new object's created, this manager, and now it is going to be available in every room. But now let's say we get to a cutscene. We don't want our crosshair showing up in the cutscene, but our draw manager is still going to be alive. What we could do is you could actually have the room manager. Basically, if I get to a cutscene room, then I'll disable these other objects. So you could actually say instance deactivate. So if I went to my room manager, which is also automatically created in the framework, if I on room start, I could say, let's act like, I'll name this room down here cutscene. I'll get to the shooting and stuff in a second. I'm just showing you an example how this works. If I say if room equals cutscene, you can actually use room parenting as well. I haven't actually used it a whole lot. But you can actually have like maybe a cutscene parent for rooms, and there might be a way to return if the current room is a child of that room, and if so, then we just disable. We want to disable the draw manager here maybe. Or maybe just set the draw manager. We'll just say draw manager dot draw crosshair equals false. So if room equals cutscene, then we'll turn off the crosshair. And this is done in our room manager. So now in our draw manager, we say if draw crosshair equals true, then we'll draw the crosshair. And I have to initialize this variable here actually. Draw crosshair equals true. And now when we get to the second room, which is our cutscene, it won't be alive anymore. Another way we could do this is, okay, I'll explain it in a second. F1, there we go. We moved rooms and our crosshair is not visible anymore. So really simple, really elegant way of doing it. Another way you could do it is you could say if instance exists player, then you could draw the crosshair. So if the player doesn't exist in a room, you don't want your crosshair there. Another way of doing it, okay? Okay, enough of that example. Okay. So we have our cutscene room. I'm gonna stick with our original example like this, okay? And you actually don't even need to do this. You just do if draw crosshair, draw sprite. So let's get into shooting and stuff. Boom, 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 boom. So you'll notice I keep a structure kind of like entities, and I have manager and controllers and GUI. So I'm gonna do the same up here. I'll call crosshair GUI, or a GUI element for now, even though it's really not. Okay, so we have our player, and also by default this template runs at 60 FPS, so you don't even have to do that. So I have my player, and let's make an enemy. New entity. I'll name it enemy. Oh, I should have duplicated the player. That'd probably be better. Duplicate, say S enemy, and we'll change the color of this bad boy to red. It's kind of bright. Something, desaturate it maybe. Whatever, that's fine. And let's actually give him a direction. Let's make him look some kind of direction. We start at direction 0 usually, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let's do something like that. And then we're actually going to middle center as its origin. And I need the player to be middle center as well. And let's give the player kind of a facing direction. Let's do gray. It's not good enough. Do black. This is what direction basically his gun is aiming. Okay. And now we're gonna go ahead and fix our player. We'll say step, and we'll say I'm gonna use one of the scripts that's built into this template. I'm just gonna say image angle equals what's the script name? My direction to mouse. Okay. So this is a built-in script, basically returns the direction from the player to the mouse. Okay, and now if we go play our game, should see our player looking at our mouse. There you go, simple. Okay, okay. Now, let's go ahead and add our enemy. O enemy. I'm not gonna use O, just enemy. Okay, and yeah, that's fine for now. Let's go to level 1. Let's place an enemy here. Oh, we need to give him a sprite. S enemy. Okay, we have a start menu, level 1. So we place one enemy here, okay? And now we want to win the level when the enemy's dead, right? So how do we do this? Well, maybe we could use Room Manager for that. So Room Manager is a built-in guide. You could delete it if you wanted. It wouldn't hurt the framework. But if you want to use it, we could say, let's see. It's a good way to do this. You could just do the step event. I really hate doing things in the step event, like checking for stuff like this. But let's just say step for this example in our Room Manager. We'll say check for change room. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to say if instance number, wait, let's just say exists, enemy. We'll say if instance does not exist. Actually, check for changing room. Actually, this is bad for the Room Manager. I think instead on instance destroy. So when enemy gets destroyed, notify Room Manager. Okay, when instance gets destroyed, all we're going to say is events. I'm going to show you how to use user events right now. User. And we'll say, how do you do this per instance? Instance, event, events, instant, event, perform, okay. Type, so we'll say event perform. We're gonna tell our Room Manager to perform an event. Room Manager, and, let me read this function. I haven't used this in a while. The type of event to perform. What is the type? Oh, okay. You know what? Screw it. We're going to do this easier. I don't want to deal with that. We're going to say with Room Manager. And we're just going to say events, or user event. Oh, event user, come on. User, and then we're just going to say event 0, okay? So one of the cool things with this template, since we have our Singleton set up, I don't even have to check for if instance exists or any of that, because it is going to exist. It's kind of guaranteed with the way it's set up. So we just call this on destroy. And on our Room Manager now, instead of the step event, this is actually way faster too, because it's not running every step. We add an event, we go to our other, and we go to user events, and you'll see we have 15 we can use. This is basically custom events. And since you'll remember from our enemy, we called event 0 with our Room Manager. It's going to call our Room Manager's event. So now here we could say if not instance exists, and we could say enemy. Actually, yeah, we're gonna have to test this out because I think this might actually have a bug. So we'll see. If not instance exists enemy, then we will change room. Room, go to next. Okay. And let's actually show a message too that we won. Show message level complete. And you'll see my Room Manager is handling all the room functions, okay? And I don't want to show, there's one, I don't want to show this anymore. Okay, cool. Awesome, so that's on enemy destroy. Now we need a way to destroy the enemy, right? So let's create some bullets. So let's create a new group. I keep everything organized, projectiles, and let's create a bullets. So I'm gonna edit image, and I'm drawing everything at kind of 4 times right now. So I'm gonna draw my bullet too. Let's make it like a green. Let's do 2. Let's make it go out. Maybe something like that. And then maybe we'll give it less alpha down here too. You know, just some cool stuff. There we go. And then let's fill it. Oops, let's fill it with like a darker green or something. Whatever. I think it might be backwards. I think you might want lighter inside of here. Whatever, that's fine. Okay, so now we have a bullet, and let me crop it actually. Image, auto trim all frames, cool. And then we're gonna put this, is it showing alpha? Why is it showing white? Okay, we'll see it. We'll do middle center as the origin, so it rotates correctly. Okay. And now let's make some shooting in our player. Well, let me get rid of all these default values inside of this template. So equipped weapon, we don't need all this. Max run speed we do need, can fly, and we'll have a health value, okay? So we have a player stats manager. We can actually get rid of that in here too. Let's go to player stats manager. These are kind of your default values. And this is just example stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of it. Equipped weapon, can fly. I do want a run speed and health, okay? So now I also want maybe a recoil rate, or not a recoil, a fire rate. Fire rate equals, say, every 10 milliseconds. Or let's do 15, okay? Or 15 steps, I guess, is what it'd be. Let's do 10. Okay, 10 steps. Yeah, and now we need to add that to our player. So I'm gonna do fire rate equals player stats manager dot fire rate. Again, the player stats manager is really good for persisting variables without resetting them across rooms. Also good for loading saved games and stuff like that. Okay, so we have our fire rate. And now let's fire rate, and we'll start our alarm for our fire rate. Alarm 0 equals, actually no. We're gonna start an alarm. Let's just do it in the step event. So in our step event, I'll just say handle shooting, and I'll say if, I don't want to keep decreasing. I'll say if fire rate is greater than 0, let's do fire rate minus minus. No, we'll do fire rate greater than 0. Fire rate minus minus. And we'll say else. Fire rate. Actually, fire rate isn't the correct variable. We actually need to keep track of shoot timer equals fire rate. Fire rate is kind of like our default, what we reset it to. So now we need to see if shoot timer is greater than or equal to 0. I'm going to copy and paste this. Then we decrease it by 1. Or else shoot timer equals fire rate, and then we fire. So I actually need to use brackets here. So this is where we actually shoot. So we're going to shoot. And that's simple. We just do instance create layer. I'm not going to create a separate layer for now. We just create an XY instances layer. And then we're going to create the, oh, we haven't even made an object for this yet. Let's create a projectile group. Projectile. Let's create a new object and call this bullets. We'll call it player bullet, since it's owned by the player. And did I not rename that? So it's gonna be S bullet green for the sprite, and then I created the object player bullet, and that's what we're gonna create. There we go, easy. And there we go, our shoot timer gets reset to the fire rate. We create our bullet, our fire rate gets destroyed. Let's go ahead. Here, let's do else if. We need to check for our mouse input actually. If mouse mouse check button, MB left. It's gonna be our shoot. And actually, this is a bad example for you guys. So here I would want to use my input manager. So how would we do this? Well, I wouldn't put this here. I'd go to my input manager, and I would go to the create event, and I would put shoot key equals, I guess it'd be shoot button equals MB left. Okay. And then in the begin step event, this is where basically I check for all my inputs. You'll see I have horizontal input and vertical input, and I say, let's say fire button pressed equals, this is where our mouse check would go, okay? So our mouse check button. And as well, if you had two different keys, you would do mouse check button, and you wouldn't do MB left actually, you would do shoot button. So you're checking for the shoot button. And you could actually do or, let's say another fire button would be space. So we do mouse check button, shoot button, or keyboard check shoot key. So let's say you had a shoot key and a shoot button. Shoot key equals, this is going to be VK space. VK space. There you go. And then begin step. There you go. So this is going to return true if either of these are allowed. You'll see all this logic is in our input manager. Now if I go to my player, it's as simple as calling if input manager dot shoot what was the name? Dang it, I forgot the name. Fire button pressed. Okay, we actually need to put this in the create event too. Fire button pressed equals false. So these are going to be initialized default states. Okay, fire button press. So in our player, we do input manager dot fire button pressed. There you go. This is going to handle everything. So we can now press space or click to shoot. So here we go. New game. Oh, it's not working. Oh, it is working. Okay. I just didn't make the bullet move. So yeah, now I'm hitting space, and now I'm clicking. So let's make the bullet move and stuff. Player can fly. Oh, okay. So my player, one more little detail about that stupid thing. On room end, I'm trying to set values, and I'm not being able to. So I have to actually delete the variables I deleted earlier there. Okay. So there we go. Let's make our bullet move. So create, we just said speed. Speed equals 15. Direction equals, let's say, player dot image angle. Okay. Not alpha, angle. Okay, and on room exit, we'll just destroy it. Other outside room instance destroy, and then destroy. Init speeds. Okay, got that. Okay, and on collision with our enemy, how I like to do it is I say description damage enemy. There's a few ways you can do it. I guess I'll just do it simple now. I'll say other dot health minus equal my damage. If you want the enemy to handle it, then what I would do is do with other. Then I'd call one of the user events like I showed you how to do earlier. So we have my damage, and let's set that. My damage equals 10. Sure, why not? Okay. There you go. And then in our enemy, we'll say yeah, I guess that's why I like doing it here. let's do this with other. Then we'll say event. Gotta use user, I guess. User event. Wait, no. What? Event user. Okay. So we're gonna call its custom event that we haven't created yet. This is gonna be damage player or enemy. Okay. So we go to our enemy and let's set up its custom event. User events 0. Damage me. So we'll say, there's better ways to do this. So now I don't have control over the bullet causing damage, which is bad. So it's better to actually call a script. Have this instance call a script. I'll show you how to do it real quick. It's kind of cool. So we'll do with other. We'll say script execute. And what we're going to do is say damage script. We haven't made this script yet, but wait, we'll say enemy take damage is the script name. Actually say apply damage. Apply damage. And we're going to pass in a damage modifier. And we have to use other. Okay, so when we're using with other, to get the damage of our bullet, we actually have to call other from inside there. So we say other dot my damage. It's kind of weird how it works. So basically we're calling the enemy. We're saying, hey, with the enemy, we're going to execute the enemy applied damage script, and we're going to pass in a value, and it's going to be the bullet that hit us as damage. Okay, so let's go ahead and make that script. Okay, so we're going to go here. I'm going to say add a group, call it entities, since that's what is calling the script, and this is going to be called enemy apply damage. Enemy apply damage. Okay, and this is going to take in an argument. So we'll call var damage to apply equals what was it? Sorry, argument 0. Okay, and we'll simply just do my health minus equal damage. Minus equal damage to apply. There you go. That easy. And then we have to do if my health is less than or equal to 0, then we want to destroy ourselves. Instance, what the heck? Instance destroy. Okay, there we go. So if our health is under a certain value, we destroy ourselves. So now we go to our enemy. We can delete that user event, by the way. Don't need it. And we need to create some health for our enemy first before we can do this. So we need to do a create event and say my health equals 100, we'll say. And initialize stats. That's it. I think that's all we need to do. So let's go over what we just did, because it's kind of confusing. We did an enemy apply damage script. I'm actually going to capitalize the E because that's been my standard for my scripts in this project. And now in our bullet on collision with the enemy, we say, hey, with that enemy we just hit, we want them to execute the enemy apply damage script. Enemy apply damage, and inside that script, we're going to send in the damage of my bullet. Okay. So this should work. Let's see what happens. Oh, also we want to destroy ourselves. The bullet hits the enemy. We want instance. We don't want it to keep flying. We want it to destroy itself. Okay. So let's hit play. And we have our main menu. Boom, boom, boom. So there you go. It destroyed itself, but we want our bullet to kind of go the direction it's moving. So we're going to say image angle equals direction, I guess. Yep. That's what we want, actually. And next we're going to make our player shoot us, or enemy shoot at us. Let's see what happens. Boom, 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 boom. But you'll notice we should be going to the next room. That's the whole reason we set this up. So our room manager thing is not actually working. So if not instance exists, so I know what's happening, and this is the bug I was worried about, is when our enemy destroy event gets called, basically when this code is getting called, even though it's in the destroy event, the enemy is not yet destroyed. It's kind of annoying. So it's calling that code, but it itself hasn't destroyed itself yet. So is that what the cleanup event is for? I want to try that real quick. I'm not positive what the cleanup event is about, but we're about to find out. Cleanup. I wonder if this is after it gets destroyed, it runs this cleanup code, which would be really nice. It'd be perfect for our use. And if that's what it does, oh, no, didn't work. Okay, change event. All right, back to the destroy. So the other way to solve this problem is to simply we call this user event. We can actually set an alarm. It's kind of dumb. Do alarm 0 equals 2. So we're giving ourselves 2 steps, and in 2 more steps after this enemy is destroyed, we'll do that check. Simple solution. So if I go to my room manager now, I'll change this user event to, where's the alarms? Where's the alarms? Other, use alarms. Hello, alarm 0. And there you go. So the description, destroy, wait, check for enemy existing. There you go. So if I hit play, we should now work. So basically when our enemy destroys itself, it sets the room manager's alarm 0 to a value. And then our room manager, there you go, level complete. And now we're in the cutscene room. You'll see that it's not drawing the crosshair. But let's make a second level. Oops. Duplicate level. Let's call this level 2. And you'll see in our level, we actually only have 2 objects. We actually aren't placing those managers or any of our controller objects in the rooms. So let's make more enemies. Let's have 3 enemies in the second room. Let's hit play. And next we're going to make the enemy shoot at us. Okay, level complete. You'll see we move to the next room. We have our crosshair. Again, because we're not in the cutscene. There you go. Now we're in the cutscene. Okay, cool. Awesome. So next, let's, what else do we want to do? Oh yeah, enemy shoot at us. So that's simple. We're just going to do in the step events. We're going to say update, whatever. We're going to say direction. Yeah, I'll say no, we'll just say image angle equals direction to direction. How do you get the direction? Direction. Am I missing something? Did I forget that method? What's that function name? Instance. You can't do instance direction? I might have to make a little script for that too. That's really annoying. So from our XY to our player.x, player.y. Okay. And then this will have a fire timer as well. Fire timer equals, we'll give this one 400 off the bat. That's quite a lot actually, not 400. Let's do like 120, 2 seconds. And then we'll say fire rate equals, say, 60. Okay. And in our step, we're going to say, I'm going to copy and paste that code from the player to speed this up. So we're just going to do the same thing here. Copy. Enemy. Shoot timer. Oh, this is going to be shoot timer, not fire timer. Then we have fire rate. Shoot timer. We don't need to do this check. But we want to set our shoot timer to our fire rate. Let's make it a little bit random. Plus random. Let's do iRandom. iRandom. Let's give it like a whole nother 30 steps possibility. Okay. And instead of the player bullet, it's going to be a bullet we call enemy bullet. Okay. Enemy bullet, and let's duplicate our player bullet. And let's rename it to enemy bullet. F2, 1. Okay. And on collision with change events, collision with player, outside room, destroy, create. Also, let's have it draw itself a little bit differently. I'm gonna make it draw itself red. Draw, sprite, extended, and draw self. So it's gonna be sprite index, -1, x, y, 1, 1, image angle. We have C red, and then alpha 1. Okay, there we go. Draw self red. That's what it's doing here. Okay. And outside room, that's good. Create player.image angle. No, this is going to be shoot. Angle equals direction. So we're actually going to have to set these differently. Delete event. I'm going to delete that create event. And instead, what we're going to do is on enemy, when they shoot, we're actually going to say with instance create a layer and we're going to create a X, Y layer ID instances. Oh, basically what we had down there. Enemy bullets. And then we're going to execute that code. And the reason, so we can make it go the direction we want. So we're going to actually have to say other.image angle. My damage equals 10, whatever. That's fine. Actually lets the enemy have control over how much damage the bullet does. And the image angle is set correctly. That should all work. And next. Yep. Enemy bullets. Collision with player. Script execute. Player. Actually, you don't have to specify player. We could actually just do apply damage. Yeah, apply damage. That'll let us use it for both the player and the enemy. So instead of enemy apply damage, we'll just call it apply damage. Okay. Damage to apply. We'll handle this differently. If object index equals player, say enemy, then we'll destroy ourselves. Else, actually, yeah, let's keep it like this. We can work with that. Instance destroy. Actually, no. Yeah, let's do this. Enemy, instance destroy, or else we'll say else if object index equals player, then we will show message you lose, and then we will yeah, that's all we'll do for now. We could restart the game, but it comes with a couple little issues on its own. Okay, script execute. Okay, instance destroy. And then is that it? I feel like there's something else I'm missing. Oh well, let's run it, see what happens. Yeah, I feel like I forgot to do something. Okay, shooting at me. Did I set my health ever? Yeah, I did. Okay, you lose. Should tell me again. I lose. I could still keep going though. Oh, enemy apply damage not set before reading it. Enemy apply damage. Oh, of course. That's what I forgot. Because we changed the name of that script, so we actually need to go to the player bullet. And remember, we called it just apply damage. There we go. Easy. There we go. So now we have a basic top-down shooter. Go to the next level. Uh-oh. Don't kill me. There you go. And now we could have a cutscene without having to worry about the crosshair being in the way. And you'll see, like, I didn't have to place anything in the rooms besides the player and the enemy. So it's really a nice setup. Yeah, 3 versus 1. It's pretty cool. Actually, I'm gonna move the GUI drawing because right now I'm drawing the GUI with the player. I'm actually gonna move this. Remember, we have a GUI drawer person, GUI manager. And we can actually draw stuff here. I get rid of this, get rid of this. Now we can actually just see our health. And let me show you something kind of important that we actually missed. Where's my room manager? And delete this. Okay. Okay, I just deleted some stuff that was left over from the template. Okay. So, remember we talked about health? Draw manager, my health. What? Draw. Oh. This is going to be... Oh, right, it's going to be player dot my health. And we actually need to do if instance exists player. Then we will do all that code, whatever. Okay. So now our draw manager is going to handle drawing the GUI. You see it's drawing our health. Watch what happens when I get hit. There we go, 40. And now let me show you what happens when we go to the next room. Our health is going to be... Oh, why'd it drop? I had the health drop by 10 on room change. Oh, room end, here we go. My health, there we go. That was for the example in the template project. Maybe for the template project, I need 2 versions, like a example and just a base, but you'll see. I took damage, I'm gonna get down to 30. Now I'm gonna kill him because I'm the best. Okay, you'll see our health stayed at 30 without our player being persistent because of the way I have the player stats set up. So let's take a little bit more damage, 10, there we go. Boom, level complete, and you'll see our health is still 10, but now we're in the cutscene and we told it to not draw the crosshair. So there we go. I think that's as much as I'm going to do on this for now. I do plan on doing a top-down shooter video, but hopefully this kind of goes over, I went over like an input manager, and again, you don't have to use these managers, okay? You could delete this entire manager thing. I mean, you could, and then it would work fine still. So all the managers, and you'd have to get rid of where you reference them in code, but you could. But it's a really elegant way. Like if we go to our player and we examine his code, let's see what responsibilities he has. He has a responsibility of grabbing his stats from the player manager, stats manager. So he's kind of setting his local stats, and he has a shoot time or whatever. And he's in charge of controlling his movement and setting which way he's looking. And he's not in charge of getting basically the movement, like getting the state of the keyboard or the input. Basically, he's just grabbing it. That's all done with the input manager. He's just applying what the input manager has, and he's using that. So now any object in the game, you don't have to do keyboard check this, keyboard check that in any other object. It's already done in the input manager. You just grab the state from the input manager. And of course he's handling his shooting, which if you had a gun object, then your gun would handle the shooting. So literally your player would only be handling its movement, which is quite nice. Draw GUI is not doing anything. I could actually delete that, just have that as an example. And on room end, you could see we're updating the player stats manager object with our current health and our current speed. Any variable that can change, you just update, you kind of push that into the player stats manager. Because on room end, the player is about to get destroyed, and when it gets recreated, it could reset itself. But instead, it's setting the player stats manager, and on create, it's getting the values back. So in the next room, it's getting that data that got saved. Okay, and then our enemy, of course, only controls himself. He controls his destroy. On destroy, the room manager, he sets an alarm 2 or alarm 0. Basically, when this alarm goes off, the room manager checks to see if there's any enemies left, and if so, then it doesn't move to the next room. And then it has a step event, of course. It's AI stuff and shooting, whatever. And that's it. That's all our player and enemy have. And everything else was handled. Remember, we didn't even place anything in any rooms, did we? No, besides the enemy and the player. We literally just focused on our game logic. But you'll see we have our room manager that doesn't matter. This describes everything. Has an alarm. Remember, this is just checking for enemy existing. If not, going to the next room. On the room start, it checks to see if the room's a cutscene, and if so, it's turning off the crosshair, basically. You can also turn it back on by using else. Draw manager dot draw crosshair equals true. Easy enough. Easily set that up. And then you have a room end. And I don't have anything in that. That's why it just says an option. But you can see your room manager manages your room stuff. You have your player stats manager, which literally these are your default values. If you had a save load game function, then this is where when you loaded a file, this is where you'd set the values grabbed from the file for the player stats. And this would be done inside the loading room. And then when you move to your level, your player would be set up. Pretty easy. And then you have an input manager. This is where you set the keys that you're going to be using. So I have a shoot button and a shoot key. I should say shoot mouse button would be more accurate. And then left key, right key, up key, down key. These are your key bindings. Then you have a begin step event. And I do begin step event because all the rest of this will play before the rest of the object's regular step event, where most of the time you'll be doing your grabbing these values. You'll be actually using them. So I have a horizontal input set to right key minus left key, which is going to be 0, -1, or 1. Same with the vertical input. So now at any time from anywhere in the game, you could just call if input manager dot horizontal input is 0, blah, blah, blah. You could even do something like this. Movement input equals horizontal puts not equal 0, and vertical input not equal 0. Movement input equals, I think this would be or. So now at any time you could say input manager dot, you could see if you have any movement input. Literally, that easy. So this is basically saying, are any of the arrow keys being pressed? That easy. You could do the logic here. Anywhere in your game you could grab it now. Input manager dot movement input. Okay. Same with the fire button pressed. I have actually multiple keys here. So I could either press space or I could press the shoot button, mouse button. So that's how you can use an input manager. Then I have a draw manager. This literally just handles its responsibilities, basically drawing stuff to the screen. Stuff that doesn't belong to an object, maybe. So maybe you'd even have a draw GUI object and then like a draw gameplay object to even separate out the logic further. And you'll see they inherit from Singleton, and you have to call event inherited. And by the way, if you didn't see, if you forget to add that, you make a manager object and you forget to add that, it tells you to add it if you haven't been around for a while. So it says the object draw manager does not call its parent's create event to fix. Place the code event inherited at the beginning of its create event. Easy. It's going to give us an error because it didn't actually get set up correctly, which is fine, but it already told you how to fix it. Simply fix it by typing that in the create event. And then you hit play, and it works perfect. New game. There you go. And once again, health persists through our levels. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, I don't want to die. Oh, dang. I lost. Our health's going to keep decreasing. But yeah. One thing about this is if you had a game where you wanted to reset the stats on basically on game load. So if I reset the game right now, since our player stats manager doesn't ever get destroyed, how you would do that, here, I'll go ahead and demonstrate it because it might confuse some people. So in our player, shoot. Oh, wait. Where did we actually check? Oh, apply damage. So we have in our apply damage script, when we show a message you lose, if I were to say room go to, let's see, what's the first level? Or I guess it'd be the loading room. Load room go to loading room. If I were to do this, our health wouldn't actually get reset because our object's actually not going to be destroyed. See, let me go ahead and get rid of this guy, and I could die faster. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, now we're going to go back to the loading room, and it's going to put us back to the first room right after that. But you'll notice that our health is going to still be something. Can't find any instance of the object. Get name. What object is this? Does not call its parents create event. Okay, so we can't go back to the loading room. I need to think about this a bit more, but if we were to go to level 1, so I need to fix that. It's one issue I need to fix. If you want to reset your stats, then basically you're gonna have to do it manually right now. See, we're back at, we have 0 health back at the first level. So what we do is basically say, we would call like, when on game reset, actually, I would probably have like a script that was like, it'd be game restart, or I guess that isn't a good name. Yeah, I guess game restart's fine. So you have a script called game restart, and then you create it, you do game restart, and then here you would reset your stats. So you would say, you do player stats manager, and this is where you'd reset all of its stats. So theoretically, you would have default stats, right? So you'd have a script with your default stats, and that's what would load. Basically, if you start a new game or if you're resetting stats, basically. So you do like my health equals whatever the default stats were, right? 50. That's really all you'd have to do in this case. So now it's resetting that player stats manager. Yep, I think that's all we have to do. So now we play, and these things happen on your game restart. So new game, get ready to use so I can die fast. Boom, boom, boom. Not set before reading it. Player stats, oh, Manger manager. I'll explain what I'm doing in a moment. The video will be, there will be a VOD though. Basically, this is a template project that you can use to create any game you want, and it's really, really efficient for, it's really efficient. So you lose, and you'll see our health's going to be reset. Oh my god, why didn't it reset? Oh, because our player, I know why, because our player set the stats. So what we actually need to do is say player stats manager dot alarm 1. So this is one of those things that's really kind of irritating about how the events are ordered. So I'm going to say player stats manager alarm 1 equals 2. And then we actually have to go in here, alarm 1, and you could just say reset stats. So all your stat reset code could go in here, okay? And anytime you want to reset stats, you could just say alarm 0 equals 1 or something, okay? And then my health equals 50. So the reason is the room ended, and after the room ended, the player set the player stats manager's stats, because that's how it's set up right now. Kill me. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. Okay. Oh, it still didn't work. Give me a break here. Let me try alarm 1-5. Boom, boom, boom. Wow, that's really odd that that's not working. Room go to level 1. I wonder if it's resetting the alarm for the player stats manager when the room resets. My health, my health, my health. Game restart. Apply damage. By the way, you can hit F1 on the scripts. Game restart. Why is that doing that? Well, I guess the other way to do it would be on room end here. You just say if my health is not equal 0. Basically, you could have a variable called dead on your player. Then don't reset the stats. Okay. And then you don't even have to do this thing, I don't think. You just say player stats dot my. I'll go ahead and do it. It gives you a one-stop shop to reset the stats. So I'll just do equals 2. Okay. This should work just fine. So what happened was I was resetting the stats, but on the room end, I had my player update the player stats manager with his own stats, which had 0 health. So it was kind of overriding the update. And now, boom, 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 this should work. There you go. So now we have our health once more. Even though it set it to 40. I think a bullet hit me like right at the end. And it reset my... I don't know, that's really weird. Why did it set it to 50? Why you set my health to 50? Oh, I know why. I know exactly why. Because those bullets, since I had a 2-step event, those bullets actually hit me before. I don't know, that's so odd. If you set an alarm to 0, does it automatically execute what's in the code? I feel like that'd be kind of interesting. It'd be like a way to execute an event. Kind of cool. Okay, you better not. Yeah, one of the bullets is hitting me at the end. But anyway, you get the point. You'll have to manually reset your stats, which is fine. You'd have to do it no matter what. In any kind of system, you'd have to manually have a way to reset your stats. But this obviously is not an effective way. One thing I can think of is actually having not a loading room, but having like a reset game room. And you could manually go to that room, and that room would handle resetting all your values for you. And then moving on to the first level again. So it's like a loading room, but a loading room that's built for already created objects, persistent objects. Hey, Handy, I don't have a schedule for live streams right now. It's kind of just whenever I can get them in, but pretty soon I'll be moving into a house, and I'll have a bit more structure, so I'll probably be trying to do them on Sundays. I like Sundays for streams. Where can I see the schedule for... Yeah, and DS list, array tutorial. haven't dealt with them yet. I actually do have a live stream where I did data structures. Let me check it out real quick. See if I can find it. Playlists. Which I don't feel like I went over them too well, to be honest. Where is it? Did I not put it in a... I need to put it in the playlist, I think. Oh, yeah. Here you go. Data structures in Gamemaker live tutorial. Oh, hello. There you go. I go over lists and some other stuff. Kind of complicated. I might do videos on just going over lists. I need to add this to add the playlist, live streams, save changes. There you go. So there you go. There's that does some lists and stuff. Yeah, and if y'all are just joining, I'm going over my game template basically. It has a lot of design pattern stuff set up for you. Go watch my design pattern videos to get more kind of into it, because it's kind of based loosely on that, which are live streams also. I did, or no, I have design pattern videos as well. But basically this sets you up with a good way to, this is especially good if you're doing like RPG type stuff, but it's a good way to kind of deal with a lot of common issues that you're going to run into, like persistence, and then like saving health between rooms is what I was just showing you how to do. And when you come to that issue, you don't usually put a lot of thought into how you want to structure it. You just kind of, oh, I guess I'll just slap my player to be persistent. And that means he's not going to be destroyed on room end. And stuff like that. So what I've done is put a lot of thought into it for you and set it up for you. So it's already ready to do that kind of stuff. So yeah. You could also prototype pretty easily. Like you already have a start menu and a basic stuff. And I already did one video today on how to do this stuff. And this is like a live make a game thing. So if you missed out, then go back and watch it. And it's going to show you exactly how to use this thing. And show you some design patterns. So this one, actually, you can find it on the forums. If I go to GMS2, what was it? Visual Studio theme. That's it. GMS2 Visual Studio theme. Then you go here. You can get, it looks exactly like Visual Studio. Like, let me pull Visual Studio up. Visual Studio. So, let me, oh, come on. I was gonna write some code for you. So here's some C++ file. I'll show you what it looks like. I have these red brackets. I don't know why, but that's weird. Why are they red? Anyway, so here's some Visual Studio, and you could see the similarity of that to this. It's based on Visual Studio. So yeah, it's a cool theme. I really like it a lot because it's familiar to me. Also, yeah, especially if I decrease the font size to what it normally is and, you know, do this thing. Looks a lot like it. Okay. Also, utility scripts. There's a lot of utility scripts. I'm going to be adding libraries for different stuff. So when you load up this project, you're going to have access to it. So what I think I'm going to be doing is, for this template project, I think I'm going to clear out all the examples, and I'm going to have an example project separately. So yeah, I think that's how I'm going to do it. Or include an example project like as a zip. Included inside of this zip, if that's possible. So yeah, if that makes any sense. So when you open this up, you won't have all this clutter, but there will be example projects to show you how to use it. Yeah, so I think it'll be useful. Like I said, it's not something that you're gonna be able to jump right into and use. But if you take a couple hours and maybe make an example game like this and get used to the flow of it, then every game you make after that's gonna be super, super easy to do, and it's gonna avoid you a lot of problems. I'm also gonna, I think, implement a little save system to make it really easy. Basically, a little framework so you can have save games and all that built in as well. So I actually need to overwrite all this. I might save this as, I might clean this up and use this as like an example project. Because it shows, yeah, how to use a room manager. A lot of different stuff in here. Yeah, I think that'll be pretty cool. So yeah, input manager, showing you how to use. Draw manager. Yeah, I might put some work in this tomorrow and upload this as an example project. And then I'll empty out the project that's on Git, and that'll be like just a base thing that you can download, and just it'll have like the main menu stuff, and that's about it. I mean, it'll have all this stuff except like probably not even the player or anything. It'll just be empty. So you can delete stuff that you need to delete without it erroring out or anything. I just did a tutorial on a top-down shooter project using my template project. That's about it. So I did like a little top-down shooter thing, but it's using a template that I built. Oh, I lost. What the? How did I lose? I'm the best. There we go. Now we're in like a cutscene room, but oops. Yeah, I think I'll do some more work into this, and I'll use this as an example project. Well, I have more viewers now than I did when I started this. I feel like I should do more. I don't know. What do you want to see? I'll show you one more thing with this project. What do you want to see? I think I kind of want to fix that issue. Yeah, let me know what you want to see on a top-down shooter, like this thing that I just showed you. And I'll do one more like feature or something. You know what? I think a room manager, to fix that issue on room start. Now, what do you mean the ordering animation? What do you mean ordering animation? So guns, okay. I'll show you how I do guns. It's really bugging me about this health thing though, like the bullets hitting me. Actually, I could do, I know how to fix that. If my health, whatever, I'll fix that later. Okay, so guns. Oh yeah, I don't have time to do all that. I just showed it on stream. It's here, I'll put it in the comments. It's that one right there. Okay, and also that theme actually did not include function colors like these. Show message. So what I did is I went to preferences and went to, where is it? Text editor, code editor. And then go to function names. Where is it at? Functions. Why am I skipping over it? And then I used this color. You could type in the hex. This is the Visual Studio color. I actually copied from there. Okay. And okay, so we're gonna do guns real quick. Entities. Or whatever. I'll just put it in here. S. Player gun 1. Okay, so let's say I have a gun here. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me just paint a quick gun. Whatever, it's a gun. Then we need to center it, middle center, so it matches up with our player. Okay, and then what I do is, man, I usually have a player group, and then I have weapons, and I have player gun as a parent, and I actually inherit from player gun. So what I do is I do create object, player gun, say rifle. Okay, and you'll notice how I do my resources: player gun, then what type. So I go really broad on the left side and then narrow it down to the specific of what it is towards the right. And the reason is when you're in code and I type player, it shows me everything that has to pertain with the player, right? And now if I type gun, it'll show me every gun, basically every gun that has to pertain with the player. Now if I type rifle, it's the rifle. So you go broad on the left and narrow it down to exactly what it is towards the right. Do that with your resource names. It's going to make it easier with your autocomplete. So player, then you could type gun. If you have 20 guns, all your guns are going to appear right here. If you have 10 different rifles, then you do rifle, and then you give exactly what type of rifle it is, right? So it really helps for your resources. Okay, so we have our rifle, and then entities, player gun, and kind of annoying. Okay, so how do we want to do this? Okay, let's assume that every gun wants to point towards the player or the mouse, right? So in your parent gun, you go to your step event, and all guns do this stuff. Okay. So what you do is you do image angle equals my direction to mouse. This is one of those functions that are built in with this template project, my direction to mouse. And then player gun rifle, we need to assign a sprite. Entities, there we go. Okay. Awesome. So now, before we forget, we actually need to make sure we're calling that code from our player gun rifle. So update, and we just simply do event inherited, if you remember. This calls its parent's step event. Okay. And now if I go to player, instead of the player doing the shooting, we're going to take this out. And we're going to put that inside this step event. And also at the end step event, actually, yeah, at the end step event, we're gonna attach to player. So we're just going to say x equals oPlayer.x. We need to do if instance exists here, or we might get an error if we ever destroy the player. Oh, not oPlayer, it's just going to be player. So, actually need to put some of these brackets down. Y equals player.y. There you go. So now we're checking if player is existing, we're attaching to the player. And now we're doing a shoot thing, and we'll say each gun has its own fire rate and stuff, right? So we need to go to the create event and initialize weapon. Okay. And there are maybe faster ways to do this. Some people use arrays, and it makes it really easy to add new weapons and things like that. But yeah, this is one way to do it. And it's nice. You have a different object for each gun. You switch your gun, basically, object, whenever you switch weapons. You just change, you have the gun change to a different gun. Okay, initialize weapon, player. Sorry, what was I doing? I just got lost. Oh, initialize weapon. We need a fire rate and stuff. So instead of the player having a fire rate, we need to move that shoot timer and that fire rate to the gun rifle. And you'll notice this isn't really a player stat anymore. It's just an equipped weapon. So actually, we'll have to do something different in a minute. We'll do fire rate equals, let's say, 16. Okay, that's the fire rate for this weapon, this rifle. Okay, and then the step event handles all this, player bullets, step event, and now the player bullet. You actually need, I'm gonna have to change the way all this is actually with, so I'm actually gonna have to do this now. So if I open up player bullets, the create event stuff actually is going to go inside of the gun rifle. And there's also better ways to do this using inheritance as well, but I don't really have time to go over that quite yet. Create player bullet, speed, direction. Yeah, good to go. This is going to be other dot image angle. Okay, step. In step, instance player, XY. Okay. Mouse button. And you'll see. So now, even that I copy and pasted this, using that input manager, I don't actually have to change this code. I don't have to re-find if my input's being correct. My input manager handles if the fire button's being pressed. So didn't even have to change that. Shoot timer, fire rate, in step. Okay, cool. So, player gun. So we have player gun rifle. Let's make one more. This is gonna be player gun. Say let's say pistol. And let's call this rifle. And let's just change the color on the gun to differentiate. I won't re-sprite anything. Just change it to like blue or something. It's the ugliest gun ever. Okay, cool. We have a second gun now. Player gun, pistol. And I'll duplicate that rifle, and I'll call it a pistol. And this is where the inheritance kind of comes in. So actually the shooting stuff can actually go in the player gun parents, okay? And since we're using other dot image angle, that's going to work fine. And we have to set my damage equal to say other dot gun power. Okay, and for gun power we're gonna have to set those in each gun. So this gun is gonna have a gun power of 10, the rifle. The pistol is gonna have a gun power of 5. gun power equals 5, and also a slower fire rate. Timer. So we're gonna say 25. It's actually the higher the fire rate, the slower it is in this instance, okay? And the in-step events, okay. So we can actually delete that event, go to player gun, step in step, attach to player. So you can see our parent's actually going to be doing all the work. It's using its step event and whatever. And we just do a create event, and we actually don't need either one of these events anymore the way I'm setting it up currently. Remember, you only have to call event inherited if, I need to change the, you only need to call the event inherited if you're overriding that event from your parent. So if I were to do something different in my step event, then I would need to call event inherited if I wanted to do the code in the parent as well. But if you don't have the event, it's automatically going to do the code that's in its parent. Okay. And now let's change our weapon, or first let's create our weapon. And we'll say equipped weapon equals player stats manager dot equipped weapon. Okay. So now if we go to our player stats manager, we need to make a variable called equipped weapon equals, and we'll start out with player gun rifle. Okay. And equipped weapon, blah, blah, blah. And then our player, after it gets its equipped weapon, we do instance create layer XY instances, and we'll create the equipped weapon. Okay. And then on room change, player stats stats manager dot equipped weapon equals equipped weapon. There you go. And there we go. So now we have our persistent, our weapon will remember our weapon even when we switch rooms, so it doesn't get reset. Okay. And next, okay, we're creating our weapon, we're getting our equipped weapon. We need to be able to change weapon. So it's pretty easy. We just do key pressed. Let's say we have a toggle key. So we'll just do I'll just do control for now. Toggle weapon. And then we'll do if it's actually, yeah, keep pressed. Yeah, that's right. So we just need to do if play equipped weapon equals player gun rifle. Then we want our equipped weapon to equal player gun pistol. Else equipped weapon equals player gun rifle. There you go. So now we can toggle our weapons. And since we are changing our weapons, we need to destroy our current weapon, create the new weapon. Instance destroy. Actually, shoot. I have to do this. Instance destroy. Oh, it's gonna have to be with equipped weapon. I have to destroy that one and then start a new one and create it. Instance. Actually, yeah. Layer X. Why is this? X Y instances. Equipped weapon actually, we could just do this. Down here. Then... I hope this works. I feel like I might get some kind of error. I have no idea. Let's hit play. Yeah, I might have to do a video on that. Oh. That's not working at all. Oh, I don't have them inheriting. I need to set their parents. Parents to player gun for both of these guys, pistol and rifle. Parents, entities, player gun. Now we hit play. I'll explain my theory on it in a minute. Okay, why can't we see the gun? Whatever. The gun's there, I promise. It's just under the player. I'd have to change the instance layer and stuff like that. Not gonna worry about it, but you won't be able to see it. Whatever. Let's see, depth minus equal 10. Okay, hopefully this works. So now the gun should appear on top of the player. There we go. So if I hit control now, we'll see the gun switch, and I have a little bit slower fire rate. It's a little bit weaker of a gun. It's gonna take me a lot of shots to kill him. Okay, level complete, and you'll see our gun stayed the same, even though we switched rooms. And you'll notice I didn't have to make the gun persistent. I didn't have to do any of that. How it was done is using that player stats manager that I kind of like using quite a bit. And then it reset our game, which the resetting of the stats doesn't work very well. I need to work on that a bit. But that's not an issue with using the template. You just have to make your own system of resetting stats whenever. Yeah, so yeah, we can switch guns now. Just toggling and so yeah, it'll know what gun I use. If I go to the next room, it knows what gun I was using. If I die, it'll know it's actually going to stay on this gun because I haven't told it to reset the stats yet. Oh wait, that's odd. It did reset the gun. Confused. I don't know why it would do that. Oh, I'm not. Okay, it didn't that time. I must have hit control. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. There we go. Oh yeah, let me beat the game real quick. If I don't die here. Am I using the pistol? Oh yeah, and then the cutscene room. Which doesn't do anything. And you'll notice I didn't have a gun in that room. Or it wouldn't let me shoot. That's weird, it wouldn't let me shoot. But, there you go. Let me see. Fire stats. But yeah, and if you just joined in or something, this is my template video, and it shows you how to use the template I'm creating. It's a project, open source. You can contribute to it if you want. I was just giving a game example of how to use it, different stuff you could do with the different managers, going over some design stuff, and just stuff like that. Awesome. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get off here, guys. It's really late. I got work tomorrow. For managing, reloading, and ammo tracking. So I did this in a Unity game. You know what? I might make a tutorial video on that specific topic. Because off the top of my head, using Gamemaker, I don't know how I would do it. I did in Unity, I made a game where I needed to do primary, secondary, that I could swap weapons and keep track of ammo and stuff. And it was a system. I mean, it's a system, but I'll probably have to do a video. I'll have to put some thought into it. I don't want to just throw stuff out there. That might not work well. Alrighty guys, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and get off here. If you guys want to check out this, well, not this project, but the template project, I tried to comment a lot inside the project, as well as the README on the Git. Just go to the GitHub in the description, and yeah, that's it. So I am gonna get out of here, and I will see you guys. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. And about that reloading stuff, yeah, I'll try to get a video in. I like doing things like that, using data structures and different stuff, so be interesting. All right, I'll see you guys next time. And this video will be uploaded soon. It's quite long, 2.5 hours, so it's gonna be a while. All right, see you guys later.